Hi, this is Darren Wilson. Texans minicamp and the offseason officially over, and that brings to mind, where do the Texans stand toward their goal, as DeMeco Ryans said, of winning it all? So I want to discuss that today, as well as the final minicamp practice and some impressions I have from some of the interviews, including Nick Chubb, Danielle Hunter, and just kind of get into it all. But let's start with the roster. I think that's very important. Let's kind of take the temperature here. Where do things stand? And, just to get into a little bit of what DeMeco said, a very long closing answer about the roster. And he says he feels strongly about the roster and takes into account all of the players on the team. And as he said, I think it was kind of obvious, but, people that say one move means they're all in. No, it's obviously you want to make a series of good moves to try to win something. And, he's called it disrespect if people assume that they're not always trying to win, and that's what a lot of teams say. But yeah, I think the Texans are very genuine and authentic about this. They did a lot this offseason, with the exception of spending a lot on the offensive line. They did change the offensive line significantly, especially its offensive line coach. But they've done a lot, and I'm going to get into more of that with my conversation with Titus Howard, which is going to be published tomorrow. So I'll have a interview exclusive with Titus Howard, who's the new right guard, moving from left guard, and he's played every position except for center, but we'll get into that. So what DeMeco said was, looking at this team and the competitiveness and the collaboration between himself and Nick Caserio, feels very strongly about that and where this team stands. And so, in terms of, we'll have a lot of time to get into this. How close are they to getting past the Kansas City Chiefs or the Baltimore Ravens or the Buffalo Bills, for that matter? So we'll see where they stand. I think they've done some things to give themselves a puncher's chance, a fighter's chance of being competitive. I still see them as the class of the AFC South Division. And once you're in the tournament, as Bill Parcells said, anything can happen. The Texans, with some of the upgrades they've made at wide receiver, and a lot of this is going to hinge on the offensive line. We'll see how these guys perform. But I definitely think that the Texans have a chance to, possibly get past the divisional round. They're a team that, has never done that before. They're 0-6 all time, as you guys know, and have heard ad nauseum about being in that position and not having made the AFC Championship game. The only team in the AFC that hasn't done that. And yes, they're a younger franchise, but many teams have been there more than once and even gotten to and won a Super Bowl. So the Texans, right now, they're still in that category of trying to get there, trying to do something. So, I do think that with the offensive line, it's just so much is going to hinge on the improvement there. And if it is improved, we'll see. You have subtracted a 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle, Laremy Tunsil, swapping him out for Cam Robinson, who's not been a Pro Bowl performer. And you have some competition with Ariante Ursary, possibly there, possibly at right tackle, Blake Fisher, pushing both those guys. Doesn't sense to me, I don't get a sense that they feel like he's ready yet, and I haven't seen that he's ready just yet. But, we'll see more. We'll know more about him when the pads come on. So let's start with the offense. I kind of wanted to do this the other day, but I think it's better timing to talk about it now. So this is the pecking order, kind of how I see this team. Obviously, Nico Collins is wide receiver 1, the Pro Bowl guy, the leader of the receiving corps. And then I see Christian Kirk as that slot presence. And Jaden Higgins, I see him as a starter and an immediate impact player. The words of DeMeco Ryans again. When they call a rookie an impact player, that really does resonate with me. And that's not something that he throws around just lightly, to call a player an impact guy. So Jaden Higgins, very impressive, especially in the Tuesday practice where he was dominant with the one-handed touchdown catch. And, you just saw his ability to separate, his ability to use his size, his catch radius, just very, very impressive. So we didn't see a lot of Jalen Noel. Had a lot of questions. It is not serious. It's a soft tissue deal, and he's going to be ready well in advance of training camp. So I do not expect this to be a lingering injury for Jalen Noel. I watched him run at a very high speed on the side, and so I've seen enough from him, unless he has some sort of setback, that he should be fine for training camp. So you look at that spot, obviously they want to, get some other contributions. There are other receivers. What are you going to see from John Mechie III, Justin Watson? Felt like to me that Justin Watson was doing some things to put himself above John Mechie III and Xavier Hutchinson. Remember, he signed a 2-year contract. He played for the Chiefs before. So there's some good things about Justin Watson. He's about 6'2", he's about 215, he's 4.4 speed. So he's a nice big target. He also plays special teams. And that's something we don't get a lot of with John Mechie III. And I could see a fresh start being good for John Mechie. But obviously they're going to make this decision as they get closer to, kind of formulating the depth chart. But the way it's shaping up to me, I could see change for John Mechie. So now the aforementioned offensive line. This is how I think they'll head into training camp with the starting 5. And it's Cam Robinson at left tackle, the former Jacksonville Jaguars, Minnesota Vikings starter. Solid player, not great, certainly not bad, can hold his own. And to me, he is the best left tackle on the roster right now. Will Ariante Ursary get to a point where he's better than Cam? We're going to find out. And then left guard, it looks like Laken Tomlinson's pretty safe, the former Pro Bowl guard, and he's not really being challenged for that job at all. And then center, Jake Andrews, former Troy University standout, former New England Patriot, played for Cole Popovich, the offensive line coach, at Troy. And then at right guard, Titus Howard is taking over at right guard. Don't really sense that he's being challenged by Ed Ingram or Juice Scruggs or Jalen Thomas. They all seem like they're backups to me and not pushing for the job. And then right tackle, Blake Fisher. He's had his moments. He's also had some tough moments too where he hasn't been quite as sharp as I would hope for. But I like the improved strength, the conditioning. He looks better to me. Looks like he's ready to do a better job than last season. And again, it's just about the potential, the high ceiling of Ariante Ursary versus whatever level you think you're going to have with Blake Fisher. So that's something they'll have to gauge. Nick Haley, the new offensive coordinator, and Cole Popovich, the new offensive line coach and run game coordinator after his promotion. Dalton Schultz really started practicing toward the end of the offseason practice schedule, and I didn't think he looked bad. I thought that he had his moments. I think he is healthy now. That was something that makes me wonder, how healthy was he last season? Did that contribute to the dip in production after signing a 3-year, $36 million deal? I think that Cade Stover, and this has been pointed out by DeMeco Ryans, that he's taken this big step this offseason. He looks like a much better route runner. Where I saw some issues with him was in pass blocking last season. But I like his run blocking, especially as a lead blocker. Remember the Stephon Diggs touchdown, things like that. Those are plays that Cade Stover made. So looks good. Brevin Jordan expected to be ready for training camp at some point. Good progress from the torn ACL suffered against the Chicago Bears last season. So you get him back, and that helps. Didn't mention Trent Brown, another injured player, 6'8", 380. He's making some progress, and I don't know if he's going to be ready for the first day of training camp, though. And it's coming right up. And just a little sneak preview, and there'll be some more to follow about the Texans preseason, but it looks like we're going to be around the 23rd when they'll get things going, starting the training camp. So you fans will have an opportunity to watch training camp. Of course, taking the coverage here and at KPRC2 with Randy McElvoy and myself and Ari Alexander, and at click2houston.com. So all of that, of course, all my social media channels have a lot of coverage for you. So yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. And I thought, obviously Joe Mixon missed the entire spring. He got injured, as I've said before, away from the facility, working out on his own. He's out of the walking boot. Now he's in an ankle brace. It's a lace-up deal, and I do expect him to be ready for camp. Whether it's the first day, I'm not sure, but I expect at some point during camp. And let's talk about Nick Chubb. So this was a more extensive workload for Nick, and he looked good, scooting out of the backfield on these handoffs, looked comfortable. And then talking with him afterward, he says, these injuries are behind me. He said he's setting personal records in all of his speed marks and weightlifting. and he's been training on his own at his high school back in Georgia. And it happened fast, this deal, this 1 year, $5 million max value deal. On Saturday, he got the call from Todd France that the Texans wanted him to come in. On Sunday, he flew in. Monday, he's at NRG Stadium, and he takes a physical, and they finish negotiating the contract. It's pretty much already done. It's a $2.5 million base value, and the 5 is the most he can earn with incentives. So I thought, obviously we're going to be able to judge him more in a game situation, but I thought he looked closer to the old Nick Chubb than what we saw, right after the knee injury, which was a torn MCL and a damaged ACL. He didn't tear it completely, but he damaged that ACL. And now he's 2 years removed from it. This is when I would expect to see more explosiveness. Breaking your foot, that is not a chronic injury. It happened once and ended his season. Running back, these guys get hurt sometimes. That's why you have two backs. And I thought that Joe Mixon wore down last year, and having a Nick Chubb to keep him fresh, this could be very good for the offense and for Nick Caley, the first-time offense coordinator's play calling, to have someone like him. Didn't talk quarterback. Let's talk C.J. Stroud. We talked about him a lot, about shoulder gate, and I've said, really repeatedly how it wasn't a big deal. They weren't hiding anything. They wouldn't have been able to hide a surgery. He never had surgery. He just had tight muscles from weightlifting and throwing, and that means he's working hard. Sometimes that happens when you're working hard. As he says, no risk, no reward. So I expect him to have a lot of throwing sessions during the downtime. I know he's planning one in Los Angeles, so with the guys, that'll be good. And me, CJ, and the Caley collaboration, other than the offensive line, nothing more important than that relationship, and it's off to a good start. As CJ said, he's a little more laid back. Nick is all gas, no brakes, intense, calls him a lot. He's like 6 in the morning, he's ready to go. This guy is intense and serious, and I've talked to some coaches that have worked with him before, including the University of Minnesota offensive line coach Brian Callahan. He's also the run game coordinator. They worked together at Akron, and everyone I've talked to about Caley, they praise how serious he is, how much he is smart and takes something from everyone. And listening to CJ talk about how they're using some old Tom Brady tape and things that they did with the Patriots around 2003, 2004, very good years for Tom Brady and the Patriots. And I know because I was covering some of those games. And the Patriots, I covered playoff games involving New England, a Super Bowl, obviously here. But, when they were playing against teams like the Ravens, I was there. I was at Gillette, or they were at M&T Bank Stadium. So I saw a lot of the Tom Brady offense up close, and even saw a joint practice before with the Patriots at the Greenbrier, and that was great. Really interesting interactions, Bill Belichick, Bill O'Brien, and seeing all that. So, yeah, on the offense, I think receivers, better. Offensive line, jury's still out. I like the attitude. I like what I'm hearing about these guys, about the work ethic and how they can gel together and complement each other. Just need to see it on the field, and sometimes they just can't block these guys because they're that good. No one blocks Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter consistently. And so with that, let's go over to the defensive side of the football and talk about this extremely talented defense that I think is going to be one of the best defenses in football and give the Texans an edge. If they can't score, you're in every game. And then it comes down to kicking game, field position. And sometimes you win games that way. You win close, low-scoring games because you got a defense. If you have a defense in a running game, that's what you want. That's the inventory you need for cold weather football. December, January, heck, February, we'll see. So Texans, with really starting with the pass rush tandem, and I was talking with Danielle Hunter about this today, and of course he got the big raise, and he earned it. Very happy to be here. This is his hometown team. He's from Katy, from Morton Ranch High School. Between him and Will Anderson Jr., these guys have an elite tandem, arguably the best tandem in the NFL. So you've got Hunter on one side, you've got Anderson on the other, and they're having a team meeting at the quarterback, hitting him in the backfield. Tough to stop. And they flush plays to each other. They are a great tandem. And then you have Tim Settle Jr. So Tim Settle Jr. is someone that takes up a lot of space. He's a pretty good pass rusher for his size. Foley Fatukasi is the best run stopper, in my opinion. And then you have outstanding depth And, we'll see. Sheldon Rankins starting, I could see that happening. But you've got DeMeco Ryans, who worked on the side. That was more because of him missing so much time. I think they just want him to work on conditioning right now. He's 35 years old. When the season comes, he'll be ready. And then you have Mario Edwards Jr., talked to Mario this week, a really good rotational rusher. And Darrell Taylor gives you some real juice off the edge. But collectively, the whole defensive line, and that includes Derek Barnett and Dylan Horton, a really, really strong group. And people aren't going to necessarily have an easy time making this team, whether you're, the Keontae Hamiltons, the Kurt Heinishes, the Tommy Tukiais, and Junior Tafuna and Solomon Byrd, Casey Toohill, who's had a pretty good spring. Toohill has looked good to me out there. Starting over, let's go at linebacker. Azeez Al-Shaair, he missed time with a knee injury. He missed time with a suspension. He was still a team captain and a leader for the defense. I thought brought a lot to the table. Excellent football player. So it's good to have Azeez back as the green dot and the extension of DeMeco Ryans, the architect of the Texans defense, which is aggressive. It's dynamic. They get after you. They are really a go get it and go for the throat type defense. Next to him right now, it would be Henry To'oTo'o once he's back out there. He does not have a serious injury. He'll be back for training camp. Christian Harris is still sidelined with a calf injury, as I reported before. He's expected to be ready for training camp, but it is the calf again, and that's the same thing that kept him out for most of last season. It's not as serious of what he had last season when he had the setback and he missed months and months. But this time, I think he will be back, and it's just a matter of, can he get healthy? Can he stay healthy? And that's what's keeping Christian Harris from getting to the point where he's someone they can rely on. Down in, down out, and he's one of the best athletes pound for pound on the defense. 4.44 guy, really fast as the corners, and just someone that can get to the football and arrive in a bad mood, and he's a good tackler and real commendable guy when he's healthy. Healthy is the big caveat with him. So at linebacker also, they have some good depth with EJ Speed. I could see EJ being someone that they would consider plugging in because he's so long and tall and fast and had 142 tackles. So good player. There's good depth with Nick Neiman and Jake Hansen. And there's some good rookies, undrafted guys, Casey Osai, and of course Jackson Woodard. So we'll see. I think it's a practice squad. Secondary to me, best secondary in football. Started with All-Pro corner Derek Stingley Jr., shut down, lockdown guy. On the other side, Kamari Lassiter, not far behind, outstanding corner in his own right, and a very physical player. Both those guys like to tackle, and that's good to have. And then they need a third corner. And so I'll give you the update now. They have worked out now Damon Arnett, the former Raiders first-round draft pick, who's with the Roughnecks. Keenan Isaac, also with the Roughnecks. He's played in the NFL. And Duke Shelley, and he's been with the Vikings. He's been with the Bears, former sixth-round pick from Kansas State. So all those guys worked out. They're still considering Arnett, and there's a chance. And there's another corner, too. And I'll get into that later, but right now I'm not reporting about the other workout they had. So there's another corner, and we'll see if they do something with that corner. But right now, I'm just going to keep that to myself, and at some point I will hopefully get to report on this other corner workout. It's not a Pro Bowl guy. It's nothing like that. It's a good corner, but it's not, something like Jair Alexander or nothing like that. And that's not what they're going to do. It's going to be someone that's going to be the third corner. It's going to be a backup, but it'll be a good player, I think, when they get it all said and done. I like what I've seen from Jalen Smith. He gets beat sometimes, but he's also a good player. I think that he can help them. He can play nickel. He can play outside corner. He can even play safety in a pinch. Safety, strong position. Kalen Bullock, poised to take the next step, wants to be a more physical tackler. He's a rangy guy. He makes a lot of plays, and like his ability to high point the football. Good range, instincts. You can say the same thing about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who brings a decided edge, toughness, intensity to the defense. So they've got C.D. Deuce, wearing number 23, a real big-time hitter, and he had 6 interceptions last year for the Super Bowl champion Eagles. You guys have been seeing some of my videos with him. Interesting guy, definitely. Not a ton of filter. He says what he thinks, speaks his mind, but it's about making plays. It's about intercepting passes. It's about making big hits. about being in the right place. It's about playing within the team concept. And I think he's off to a good start now that he's reported with the Texans after training on his own independently during the voluntary organized team activities. So then you have Jalen Petrie, healthy again, ahead of schedule from the torn pec, a hard-hitting nickel. Just ask the Dallas Cowboys, just ask the Chicago Bears and Cole Kmet, and he will strike you. You have Jimmy Ward still getting over foot surgery. He's a backup, but what an insurance policy to have him as a backup nickel and a backup safety. So that's good to have. And then they have Miles Bryant. They have other players like Tremont Smith who are very good on special teams, as is Bryant. So they've got a lot of depth there. And then you got MJ Stewart, good special teamer. D'Angelo Ross, good special teamer. So they've got some players. And then, we've haven't talked a lot about the long snapper battle. I don't know if that's something that captivates you guys. You just want to make sure that whoever is snapping this year, whether it's Austin Brinkman, the rookie from West Virginia, or veteran Tucker Addington, they're doing a good job. So we'll see. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be one of those two guys? I think it will be. They did have a tryout for a long snapper named Cameron Lyons from the San Antonio Brahmas. I reported on that. So tryout season for the Texans. And just a couple other thoughts and notes here as I kind of jog my memory a little bit. When I'm looking down, guys, I'm looking at my laptop. There's no real big cheat sheet. I don't have note cards or anything like that. But I have a pretty good memory, but some things prompt me. And that's why, sometimes I'm looking down and I like to have the eye contact, but at the same time, I don't have a photographic memory, so I look at some things, gives me some notes. Some practice notes. Christian Kirk, big-time practice, had a very long catch from a throw on C.J. Stroud. Also had a touchdown in a red zone drill. He beat C.J. Gardner-Johnson in coverage. He also beat Jalen Smith in another play, and he was tough. Made some one-handed catches. He had a drop on Tuesday. No drops this time. Xavier Hutchinson caught a touchdown. Xavier looking good out there. I saw him running some good routes. Looked a little faster than usual, so he was moving well. Again, with the tight ends, like I said, I'm seeing good things from Dalton Schultz and Cade Stover. Stover, I'm pretty high on right now, pretty bullish about his upside. In this practice, we saw, again, the same offensive line, primarily Cam Robinson left tackle and Laken Tomlinson left guard. First center Jake Andrews, right guard Titus Howard, right tackle Blake Fisher, some substitution from Ariante Ursery, and we saw some subbing in of Jarrett Patterson at center. So we've even seen Titus Howard play some right guard and right tackle. And I think that he does not really face competition for his job. I think he's going to be the right guard. So we saw that, and I think overall saw progress. We did see a dropped interception by Jalen Reed, the rookie from Penn State, just a play that he could have made, and that was frustrating for him. But he can do it. He can move around. He can make some plays. You saw Kalen Bullock break up a pass, a sideline throw to Nico Collins, and it just overall, I thought it was a good spring by the Texans. I was impressed overall. I think they've made some improvements to the roster, and I'm not concerned about the injuries. I never was concerned about C.J. Stroud. I'm not overly concerned about Joe Mixon, but Joe is someone that the big thing is getting him to the season, because he doesn't need that much work in the preseason. He's Joe Mixon. He's very proven. 11 touchdown runs last season and over 1,000 rushing yards. So that's where they stand, the Texans. And so, like I was saying in the first half of the video, yes, they're looking for a third corner, but there's no real contract negotiations. There's no extension talks. There's nothing really happening. So it is going to be some downtime, but we're going to keep giving you content. And I have more content planned for tomorrow. And, of course, I'll be going to youth football camps, and I have some interviews I've saved. And I'm going to be talking Texans football all summer long. I appreciate you guys watching, liking, subscribing. Please tell your friends and your family, and join if you're a Texans fan or you like just NFL talk in general and you want to hear from me. I appreciate it. So you can sign up here. And, of course, I'm on all the social media channels like Twitter at X, @Aaron_Wilson_NFL, and even on Instagram, Aaron Wilson 7128, and of course at www.clicktohouston.com. Guys, look forward to our next conversation. Thank you for tuning in.
DB's, a great linebacker, so I'm excited.
You had a message just to Browns fans for the last 7 years of your career, what would it be?
I don't know. I'm sure I'll address that at some point. I'm not ready to do it now, but it would be a great message.
Nick, when did you know that you were kind of getting back to it?
Sorry, say it again. For the most part, it's all the same. Run the ball, the same thing I've done in Cleveland, same blocking scheme, it's the same play. So it's been fine from that adjustment.
Nick, was there a moment where you kind of said, "Hey, I'm back to my old self," and you kind of knew? If so, what was it?
Probably while I was at home during my off-season training, I had all my numbers that I usually do in off-season, so speed and weights and things like that. So.
What is your first impression of DeMeco Ryans, and what does it say that this organization wanted you so?
Yeah, I mean, he's a young coach, a lot of energy, a lot of intensity. He's young, fresh, he wants to win. And I was questioning why they wanted me. And then I came here and I saw a bunch of guys who like to work and not talk. And I realized I'm a perfect fit. So I realized why they wanted me here. But I'm excited about it.
Nick, the tandem that you could have with Joe Mixon, what kind of tandem do you feel like that can be? And do you know him well from the North days, all that sort of thing?
I know him. I think we're in the same class. I come out of high school. He should have came to Georgia, by the way. And he went to Cincinnati, and so I played against him twice a year. And I was always afraid he would take over the game with his ability. He runs super hard. So I think both of us have the same intangibles to be tough for defense and stuff.
Appreciate it, Nick.
He listen well. He gonna do whatever it takes to be better.